At this point, as the salads are being served, we're going to have Marcia Glick come up, the city manager. She is going to introduce the next section. Our spotlight today is the light rail transit. We have a few speakers here. So Marcia, take it away.
Great. Hi, Marcia Glick again, city manager. And I forgot to mention I'm a board member. I've been a board member of the Chamber of Commerce, helping with the connection between the business community and the city. Today, it's a great opportunity. We've got, of course, our Business Advisory Commission member, Tim Baylor, is here. He's representing the Chamber of Commerce on the Advisory Commission. Sophia Ginis is here. She's going to do the presentation and kind of get you up to speed on some of the process in taking a look at how and if the light rail can come through County Road 81, not BNSF. We're looking at County Road 81 to see how the infrastructure can fit through on that alignment as an alternative. So Sophia, handing it off.
Got to shortify the mic a little bit. You know, being 5'2" has its advantages on airplanes, but that's about it. So I have copies of what we'll see on the screen for anybody that wants them. So I'll just start passing them around. If you're like me, you like to have something to write on or take away. So as Marcia said, you know, the blue line right now is trying to find ways to make County Road 81 work for the project. We know we have a lot of work to do with the city and a lot of collaboration to have with both the city and many of you involved in the room today. And so what I have today, just to kind of update everybody on, is a little bit about our efforts to try to place stations in Robbinsdale. While we know the train itself is a thing unto itself, where we stop, how people connect, that's the root of transit, right? It's how we're getting around and what we're doing. And so I have a little bit of a station update, kind of per the requests of people here. Also want to talk a little bit about some station areas in Minneapolis and how that process is going. And then I always love to end with schedule because, you know, light rail always feels like a marathon, right? It's always kind of there, but it's a really long process. And so it's really good for folks to understand that we're going to be having these conversations for a while. And we're going to try to work towards solutions throughout that whole process. So if we want to go to the next slide. So there's basically two stations that we're trying to find places for in Robbinsdale. One, connecting to one of Robbinsdale's most major employers, North Memorial Hospital, and then one that connects to downtown Robbinsdale in this very vibrant area. And all of your wonderful businesses that everybody's trying, wants to get to. So we have multiple options here of how we could connect with North Memorial, and this is, they'll kind of continue to evolve. And so you'll see there's a set of basically 3 images, and the root of it is we haven't decided in Minneapolis how we are going to connect into Robbinsdale, whether that's Lowry or West Broadway. And so we need a couple options to do either because we're go one of those 2 routes. And so which one is that is part of the consideration. So starting connecting from West Broadway, and I'll try to point to the screen a little bit, you're kind of coming up West Broadway, and right now the 2 Lowry Bridges are under construction. They'll be new, and so it's a little bit of figuring out how to work within that and just kind of the complexity of the roadways that come into that area where piers are. So one option is kind of coming in between the middle of those 2 and being kind of above them and kind of coming in there, and then right by the North Memorial campus, connecting potentially into their parking ride with an elevated station. And so, that station would definitely serve the hospital and a lot of the Robbinsdale residents coming to the east in that neighborhood. The graphics themselves don't show a ton of pedestrian connections, but you definitely have vertical circulation up to that station. So stairs, elevator kind of thing. Think about that full pedestrian experience. Go to the next option. So this is also coming from West Broadway, but we're taking kind of a bigger swing around. And again, you're on a bridge, you're a little bit higher, trying to make clearances and chase grade and all that kind of stuff. But one of the advantages of the placement of this station would be you're kind of connected a little bit to the center of campus a little bit. And then you also would be able to provide connections to the Grand Rounds, which is something that is of interest of the Minneapolis Park Board, as well as both Robbinsdale and Minneapolis residents kind of connecting in that southern to northern region in the image. Like the previous example, you'd also have a direct pedestrian connection into the hospital. And then coming from Lowry, go to the next one. Very similar to option one, coming from West Broadway, except this time we're coming from Lowry and kind of swinging up in there, again, placing a station that would be accessible to the hospital. Obviously, this is very preliminary, very low, I shouldn't say low level, but percentage wise, very beginning engineering and a lot to be figured out on site. So we look forward to the continual working with our North Memorial Hospital to make this station be right for them, but also for the residents of Robbinsdale that live close to the station. So a lot of work to do on this front, but there's our first salvo in a sense. Going on, I think many of you have already seen this, but kind of thinking about how light rail could travel through Robbinsdale more into this downtown area. So this is an example of the existing conditions. You have the 4-lane roadway, you have a center median, you have your turn lanes, and going to the next one, kind of how that area could look with light rail center running. Again, a lot of things to work with area businesses and the city council, a lot of questions for this area. This gives you at least an initial flavor of how this could fit or look within downtown Robbinsdale. So kind of that center median potentially, and keeping the roadway and just kind of pushing out a little bit. With that, where would you put a station in downtown Robbinsdale and how would that work? The next couple slides kind of show a few options. So starting with our Elam Church friends over here, there is the potential that we could place a station closer to their campus, and potentially work on maybe a park and ride. Still in discussion, but that's some of the thought there. You're still very close to the downtown. You're also close to amenities like Hy-Vee, where people are coming for groceries or other things. So obviously the pedestrian experience and the connection into the city, super important, things that we have to spend a lot of time working with the city on. But again, initial kind of options out in the world. If you go to the next couple slides, also thinking about how you could place a station closer to town center, or kind of like right here, right over here. You just head over to 81. So just a couple images showing a center platform and a split platform. In the next one, it's just different ways to show how it all works. Metro Transit likes center platforms. It's easier from an accessibility standpoint. So if you have one platform in the middle, if somebody is blind, it's a very typical platform on our system, so it's easier to learn. And then it's something that's new to the area. You don't have to worry that you're in the wrong place. But when there's needs, we look at different options. So that is the beginning of trying to place stations in Robbinsdale. Obviously, a lot more discussion. And part of the goal of this year is really to show what it means, right? Like what it would mean. So I'll talk a minute about schedule and where we're kind of going within the next year and getting to a community supported alignment. But it's really the point of the engineering and the work that we're doing this year is to really be able to show the benefits and impacts of a light rail in Robbinsdale on 81, and kind of the picture of what that would look like. Not all the details, lots of details to work out, but kind of the big picture, getting that out to the public and to all of you. So this was a request of kind of what are these other areas? So in the northern portion of our project in Brooklyn Park, stations are staying the same. along County Road 81 to our north. Our stations are in fairly similar locations. But in Minneapolis, we have completely new routes, West Broadway and Lowry. And what this is just showing is trying to find out how many stations there are and exactly where they are, just like we're doing in Robbinsdale. And so the blue are what we're calling station study areas. And that means just like here, we don't know exactly where we want to place the station. It's still a discussion, but it's agreeing with the city and the community on, is this the right number? Is this generally the location that they should be? And so we have a couple, both are kind of on Penn and on Emerson Fremont. And then as the routes diverge, whether that's Lyndale or Washington, and trying to place stations. I think the message with this graphic, and Marcia, feel free to jump in, is people often ask, what is light rail, right? And it's different than bus service in the sense that, your station spacing is a half mile to a mile. It's both connecting you to kind of neighborhood destinations, but also that regional system. So it's kind of that balance between the two. We got to figure that out a little bit. We're going to be doing a lot. Go ahead. Marcia. That's exactly it. And it's what we're trying to do is this whole transit network, right? Reliable service throughout our metro region. And if you just go to the next slide, with the city of Minneapolis, we're going to have some November workshops. The detail that I was able to share with you all today about Robbinsdale stations, Minneapolis needs to see similar things too. And so in the next couple months, we're going to be working to talk about exactly all those engineering details that you've seen. And because there's a couple options, there's many options. So it's really getting that community response to, hey, here's some choices. Let's talk about them and start to see what direction we might want to go. So that's kind of the world outside of Robbinsdale. And that leads us into our next slide, which just is a little bit about schedule. And I have one for this year and then one kind of for the project overall. And kind of our couple major milestones coming up are, we want to have some fall workshops, right? Kind of get everybody up to speed with where we are in our engineering. The community at large hasn't seen, for example, the stations at North Memorial. And so that's a conversation we need to have a little bit more broadly. We are aiming for a draft report in December that'll have an official comment period and time for people to kind of look at the options, right? Like, how is this project evaluated? What are the impacts? Let's talk about the benefits to our region. So kind of we've had about a year of work with all these communities. And so this report really just kind of takes that and sums that up so that we can discuss it. And then from that, a final report early next year that really starts then have those recommendations. So is it Lowry? Is it West Broadway? Let's talk about our station areas, stuff like that. From that, go to the next slide. We have a lot more work to do. And so, I talked to a lot of folks and they're like, you're getting to a community supported alignment by the end of the year. There's so many questions. How is it possible? It is just the beginning of the conversation. And having a community supported alignment makes it so that we can actually take those next steps and do things. Ooh, lost it. In your slides. There's a overall schedule on the last page of your handout. So we still have, for this project to be officially a thing, we have environmental clearance to do. We will seek municipal consent and I hope to work through with the city through that process. And we have a lot more engineering to do. A lot of the details that we have to figure out come in future years. And so maybe the earliest we would get into construction is 2024, 2025. I mean, it's a ways away. And then if construction goes all as planned, the earliest opening date that we would consider is 2028. So these are long projects. They take a lot of time. They take a lot of ongoing collaboration with our municipalities and the businesses to get it right. And so we want to get it right. We want to do our best. And, as not a resident of the city, but a resident of the region and very close, it matters to me to do it right. And there's definitely hard conversations to be had. But I believe in transit, and that's why I work for the project, and I believe it brings access. And as we think of our future in our ever-changing world, having options that you can plan around like light rail, I just think is part of our future. So that's why I do what I do. And I know we're going to have some challenging conversations along the way. And I just want to be a partner through that process. And so I probably talked for too long. Happy to take questions or conversation at table. And obviously we have our superintendent to steal the show. There. Like the mayor said, we very, very much want to receive your comments. And so there's multiple ways to do that. I should have included the slide at the end, but Blue Line EXT is our website. If you just Google Metro Blue Line extension, it'll get you right there. We have an interactive map, kind of to that, do you want to leave an anonymous comment? We have an interactive map where you can place comments. My email and phone number is also there. I'm one of your first points of contact for the project. Happy to chat over email, meet in person, all that kind of stuff. And if we take emailed comments, if you want to have more of that conversation, I'll scribble stuff down on the phone, but we do want to have a dialogue with you. And we want, as the mayor teed off, we want to hear your biggest concerns and your biggest wishes so that we can start to plug along. Because as this long schedule shows you, it's that evolution of the conversation. And the more we know now, the more we're able to actually evolve the dialogue and be responsive and just kind of continue the process. Hope that. My name is spelled with a. I can share contact.
Lunch will now be served. Yes. Lunch will be served, and then we'll get back together with the superintendent in just a few minutes. Thanks for being with us. If I can have your attention real quick again, I just checked with the restaurant staff and it's going to be a few minutes for the dinner. And so we'll go ahead and have the superintendent speak first and they'll start serving as he's speaking. So please join me in welcoming Superintendent David Ingstrom.
Did I do that by touching that? That was beautiful. Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. I am David Engstrom. I'm the new superintendent of Robbinsdale area schools, and it's really my pleasure to be here. I was wondering who I was actually going to see when I came in, and if I would know. And I didn't expect Emily that would be as part of the Head of Seven Dreams. I didn't expect we'd have two educators here in the district that would be part of it. And it's good to see Mayor Blunt, a chance to meet. But it's really my pleasure to be here today, just to be able to introduce myself to you. And hopefully by the end of what I share with you, you'll know a little bit about me and just some of the things that we're actually working on in the district as I am new here to the Robbinsdale area schools. It wasn't Mayor Blonigan that I met, but I was meeting with another mayor. And we were talking about, well, how do you measure the success economically of a school system? And that mayor said, well, Dave, there is a direct correlation between, a good school system and home values. And then I looked at him and said, well, then based on that metric, I'm arousing success already in Robbinsdale area schools because home values are through the roof, right? I'm on day, I think I said 88. I corrected. I'm on day 89 as the superintendent. I've had very little impact on the school district so far, and by no means have I had an impact on home values yet, as we're trying to figure out what this crazy market is. But in 89 days that I've been here, I've been taking my time to really ask a lot of questions, and I've had a chance to talk to community members. I've had a chance to talk to many people internally in the district. And many of our conversations that we're having right now with me really focus on the what of our school district. And those types of questions, for those of you that are in business, really come from a SWOT analysis that I'm taking of Robbinsdale area schools, of strengths and weaknesses and opportunities and threats. But as I'm asking these what questions, I usually frame it into two questions. What are the most important issues or challenges that we are facing as a district that as a new superintendent, I need to know? And then the other question I ask, what are the most promising opportunities that we have as a school district that we should really be taking advantage of? And it's by asking those two questions that I'm getting a lot of information, both internally and externally in the school district about who we are and what we should be doing. But there are also other questions that I am asking after I talk to them about the challenges and the opportunities, and it really goes to a question of why. Sophia, you spoke to your why, because I think you said, I believe in transit. And so when I'm having conversations with people, I want to know why, especially internally, they have chosen to be in education. Of that why, what speaks to them of why they have chosen. And so today, I wanted to tell you a little bit about my why I have chosen public education as my career. It happened about 30 years ago, and there was this distinct moment of when I chose public education. I had been in business for 10 years. I didn't choose public education right out of college. I'd been in business for 10 years, and I moved. I'd been traveling around the southeastern part of the United States, and then I moved back to Minnesota, and I was going to decide which direction I was going to go furthering my education. Was it going to be that I would get an MBA, or I was thinking about potentially maybe going into education because it'd just be a way that I could give back to the community. And so my buddy and I, we went up to northern Minnesota in February, and we were snowshoeing. And we were snowshoeing on the Temperance River in February. and it was beautiful. The Temperance River's up on the North Shore, right? Just a little past two harbors, and it was an idyllic February day. Snow was coming down. You're snowshoeing along, and I heard a whoosh, and that whoosh was the snow giving way on my snowshoes. And the next thing I know, I am looking at my buddy's ankles, and I'm hearing rushing water. Well, I grabbed onto his ankles first of all right, and I looked down, and my feet are in the Temperance River, all right? Okay, he looks back at me, he's panicked, he drops to the ground, he pulls me out, we crawl to the edge, okay, of the river to get to a bank, and we just looked at each other, and we looked at this riverbed, and we went, if I'd gone down, I would have gone under, and there was no break in the water as far as we could see. And I would have just gone down and under. I don't know where they would have found me. It's nothing like a life and death situation to really make you think about what's important in life. And it was on that weekend that I decided I was going to go back and get my master's degree of education, because I realized what was important to me was that I needed to be part and integral part of a community. And that I know that I needed to be involved in helping others succeed. I loved business. Business was fun, right? Run the numbers at the end of every night. It was I really enjoyed that. But I needed something more. It was that snowshoeing on the Temperance River that really just seared that into my brain. Now, something else I learned that day, you're not supposed to snowshoe on a river. You're supposed to snowshoe on the banks next to the river, right? So that was stupidity on our part, but it was a beautiful day, and there was a real life lesson that came from it. And so my why, when I decided that it was going to be public education, I really had to start thinking about what I was going to bring. I was going to bring as an educator. And I had two models that I knew that I could follow, that just already in my experiences in life. And the first one was a model of community. And that model of community that I knew that I was going to try to emulate all came from where I grew up. And I grew up in a small town on the southwestern plains in Minnesota called Mountain Lake, Minnesota. And it's a town of 2,000 people. Every place I have been since then in public education has been bigger than 2,000 people, than my hometown. But that hometown really just showed me of what it was like to have a community of people with education at its center. And the whole community was focused on the education that happened to their students. Schools were the center of activities. They were the center of the social life in that school. And when I look back at it now, I realize it was just a great place to be a kid and to grow up. But I recognize what the adults were contributing as part of that really benefited. And then the second model that I knew I was going to emulate was from the most influential teacher that I'd ever had in my life. And that was an English teacher in Mountain Lake, Minnesota, Linda. And Linda and I are still friends on social media. And what she brought was this. She was this influential teacher that even in English would create kind of this team, this community of a team, and that you all held each other accountable to make yourselves better. And while this influential adult kind of created this culture of a team, holding each other accountable to make themselves better, and I really benefited from that in her classroom, of having her, but being surrounded by like-minded students that wanted to achieve something. And so it's those two models that I just kind of took into my classroom when I started. I knew I was going to be the influential adult in their lives, but we kind of created this team that would come together and to help others succeed. And that model worked when I was a teacher, and I started my teaching career up at Champlain Park High School, where I taught for 7 years up there. And I heard, and I'm not sure secondhand, the owners of Nana Rosa graduated from Champlain Park. So I'm not sure. So I'm hoping after this I can go back there and actually ask that question. And so at Champlain Park, where I was a business and marketing teacher, and really enjoyed those 7 years of creating this atmosphere and this culture of success for students by having a team of students that would be surrounding them with me kind of guiding their way. But it was in 2001 that after having my first child, that my wife looked at me, or no, I looked at my wife and I said, as the only daughter, would you feel compelled to move to Colorado Springs if anything happened to one of your parents? Because they lived in Colorado Springs. She said yes, and I knew we were moving to Colorado Springs. Now it was just a question of when. And so I put some applications out to high schools in Colorado Springs, did a phone interview. That's what you did back then, phone interviews. And they hired me. So in 2001, I went to Colorado Springs. My family, to Colorado Springs, where I was a business and marketing teacher at a high school there. And after a couple of years of teaching, I felt compelled that I could take this model of a community, an influential adult to help others succeed. I could take it to another level to impact others and helping them succeed. So I became an assistant principal at a high school. Then that high school hired me as their principal, then went on to be executive director of alternative education and non-traditional education, became the assistant superintendent, and then was appointed the deputy superintendent, all in the same school district. So I went from being a teacher to being the deputy superintendent over the course of 20 years. And the whole time, that model of being an influential adult, creating a team of people to support others so that others can succeed, has really worked well for me. And that it's a model that I just continue to follow and to really encourage at whatever level that I have been in public education. And then in 2001, or 2021, just had that feeling inside of that I could still do more. And I applied to be the Robbinsdale area school superintendent. Was coached very well. Someone told me that it's all about timing, fit. Timing and fit. Not every position opens up at the same time, so you have to be judicious about where you think that would be the right fit when it does open up. And I applied here, the only school district that I applied back here in Minnesota, and the Board of Education determined that I would be the right fit for the future of Robbinsdale area schools. And so I'm so honored that I get to be the superintendent of this school district, and that as I've entered in to this school district, I've been hearing repeatedly about how this school district is a community, and that resonates with me. But I kind of gave like a side eye to people when they would say that, like, it's a community. It's really 7 communities. How is 7 communities one community? And then from talking to people just today, when I hear table mates of people that have grown up, gone to schools here, their children have gone to school here, and grandchildren have gone to school here, that this school district truly is a community. And while I wouldn't say it's a majority of people that I have met have been in the district, products of the district, and have stayed here in the district, it is a large percentage of our population that have stayed after being educated. And so I'm so pleased that we have this strong sense of community in the Robbinsdale area schools as we are working together to work on our current situation and our issues that we have, but also as we are planning for the future of the Robbinsdale area schools. And the way that we are doing that is through my listening and my learning, and that I'm soon going to be presenting to the Board of Education in November some of the strategic themes that I think that we need to be focusing on as a district that align to our mission and our vision that the Board of Education has already established. And that through those strategic themes, we will then set goals for what we want to accomplish, and then determine our objectives and our actions that we will be taking as we will be looking at creating a system of continual improvement that will impact all of our students at scale across the district of 11,500 students. And so as I'm standing here in front of you as the Chamber of Commerce, I guess a question for you is, well, what role do you play that in the success of each of our students in the Robbinsdale area schools. And that I'd like to challenge you to think about, how are you an influential adult? Whether you are in our schools or not, but as an influential adult in this community, I would challenge you to think about what role you would have in that. We need finances in order to achieve our objectives. And as levies come forward from a school district that's identifying our needs, and that levies are put forward, we know we need your support in passing those levies. But there are three other areas that I would like for you to consider. Is that as we have in our organization, of how the community can be assisting us in being influential adults. And that really falls into three areas. We need more tutors. We need adults that are willing to come in and to tutor our students and to give them some strategic, high-intensity tutoring aligned to the work that we are already doing with academic. We have lost a lot of tutors during the pandemic. We know why. People saying, I don't want to be in a situation where I might be medically compromised. What else we need is we need mentors. We need adults who would be willing to sign up to mentor our students. We don't have a rock solid mentoring program now, but it's something that we're going to developing more of, where an adult can step forward, be trained, and then sidle up next to a student and be to mentoring them life skills. But the third component of where we need adults, influential adults from our community helping us, would be as employers. And right now, I know the market is just crazy of job openings, and there's a need for hiring of employees. And yet we know that there is learning that can happen in employability, especially if it's in employment of where a student is studying, and a pathway of what they are studying. And it's from that pathway and that employability, that relevance in that student's life, that may say, I'm going to graduate, okay? That I like this part of education, and that we actually then are setting them up for success in their job skills and for their future academics by having them employed with intent here in the Robbinsdale area schools. So those are three ways of what we are looking for from influential adults as being part of our community. And I hope that you would think about that as we are as I will be putting forward the next steps that we will be taking in Robbinsdale area schools as part of our strategic themes. So with that, I think Dave said he was going to give me the hook at about 15 minutes. And I'm not quite sure how many minutes that I've gone, but I really want to thank you for the support that you have already provided for Robbinsdale area schools, but also for entrusting your children and grandchildren with us and in our care as we are really focusing on loving on each of those kids and finding out what strength they have, so we can play to that strength to prepare society and a successful life. So thank you very much for having me. And then did you say, should we do some questions? So the time frame is until my food arrives. Okay. All right, everybody watch my plate. I'll get served last. But what questions could I answer for you? Yes. It can be an indicator, but it is not the only indicator. And so we know that an involved parent is part of the 5 essentials that need to be in place for a successful school, but also a principal that has leadership skills and collaboration among teachers. I mean, there's other variables with it too. And so the reason I share that is that it isn't the only thing. So that for whatever reason, if a parent, because of them working, or if they are a grandparent who is in charge of their child, don't have the capacity to be as involved for whatever reason, there are other factors that we can play to that can ensure that that student still be successful. Yes. I really appreciate that. Thank you. A better superintendent would carry around a business card. I just don't carry them around anymore. But let's make sure we have each other's names as we're going to be developing some stronger pathways. You know, nursing assistant pathway is just a logical entry for students of what we would like to be working with technical college and developing a stronger pathway with nursing assistants. I know you would. I know you would, and thank you very much. But this just speaks to what we need to be providing and increasing in our students, but to give them employability skills. Yes. I have a career in technical education background. Okay. So I have a bias whenever I'm in conversations with people because you will never hear from me that a four-year post-secondary institution is the only route that a student should go. And I'll even say that over the course of the last 20 years of focusing on standards, that while that has been a very good focus to have to ensure that we are aligned to what we need to be teaching our students, it took our eyes off the ball when it came to some relevancy and career and technical opportunities that we should be exploring with our students. So if your question is, I've been hearing it from parents, no, because I'm on day 89 and haven't had that many conversations with parents. But as a bias, as a career and technical educator, I know that we need to have those opportunities for our students. And some of my preliminary analysis of the district is that we have minimized some of those opportunities. And so that we need to reinvest in those. And those can be kind of expensive, especially when we were talking about the capital improvements that need to happen in some of our buildings in order to have the right environment that enhances the education. But it is something that I know that we need to make sure that we have those opportunities. And so we're in conversations, and I've had a meeting with two representatives from, just want to say North Hennepin, okay, because I taught at North Hennepin while I was at Champlain Park, but at Hennepin Technical College. And we've had conversations with them already and about how we are going to be having a partnership to continue to build out those pathways. Yes. Always. And there are opportunities that, and I just don't know, I don't know our employment base well enough yet. And yet I've had a track record, even as a deputy superintendent in another school district, of working with certain organizations, especially with our transitions programs for our special education students, of how we can get them into employment skills that they can get to a level of independence. So if you said, don't forget them, of course we won't forget them. Okay, so it's 12:54. So the first time I heard someone say bus, okay, since I've been here. And anyone have their commercial driver's license? I will hire you right now, okay? I do need to speak about it. We are short bus drivers, which means we then cannot provide all of the transportation that we have committed to in the past. Currently, we have 67 routes in our district for our general education students. We are short 12 bus drivers, which means we are only running 55 of those, and that means we have no substitutes. And so on any given day, we also have 1, 2, 3, 4 other routes that are down because we have a bus driver who is sick or can't show up, and we have no substitutes for them. So transportation right now is I wish I could say that our in the schools focusing on academics, and yet we are troubleshooting and trying to band-aid our issue about transportation while we are looking at having to completely refigure how we provide transportation and build a long-term plan while we are band-aiding our current situation. I am on a cohort of superintendents that will be meeting with representatives from the governor's office tomorrow at 7:30 in the morning as to make sure that they are aware of all of the issues that we are facing, and that while we have, as I said, 12 positions that are open and we have 40 people in the pipeline, which means they have been hired to be bus drivers, but it takes 2 to 3 months to go through the whole process to be a bus driver, that they are practicing and studying and training. And yet of those 40, we have some that pass the test. Only 19% of applicants pass the behind the wheel test on their first try. But also we have people that then walk away from us and go to a different transportation company and apply to them. And so we are not having this pipeline that is just feeding us to fill our needs. And we're concerned that our transportation issue is going to be ongoing. It is nationwide. It is nationwide. So again, we are working the issues, we are band-aiding the issues, but we're also looking at some long-term plans that I'll be putting in front of our Board of Education at a work session. What day is today? Tuesday, a week from tomorrow. A week from yesterday. Yeah, thank you. I just sprouted some more gray hair from that. Any other questions? So again, thank you very much. Thank you very much for the time for me able to just share a few things, and thank you for your support of Robbinsdale area schools.
With that, for Mike's benefit that is joining us online, just a couple quick announcements to close here, then enjoy your lunch, keep the conversation going. The chamber survey is out, so if you receive that, the link to it, make sure you fill out that survey. Very important for the board to look at that information at their upcoming meeting. The next luncheon will be Tuesday, October 26th, right here at this location again. Hope you can join us. And then the Give and Get event is the 28th, and that is up and down West Broadway. And Dr. Lindsay Daniels from Go Health Chiropractic is putting that together. And they need you to participate. If you'd like to have a booth, if you'd like to donate to it, look to the Chamber's website. And again, I'll be sending out another email about that. But help with the Give and Get. Great way to give back to kids. Thanks for coming. Hope to see you in October. Enjoy your lunch.